Welcome to Inspiration Radio, Growth Principles for Humanity and Progress. Join us when we share information, wisdom, and ideas how to create an extraordinary future for us all. The future is open. We together decide what will be in it. Welcome to another episode of Inspiration Radio, or should I better say, today for sure, episode of Wolfgang's View. Wolfgang's View was my German podcast I had. For a while it was just always about how do we see the world and should we see it different. And we are all somehow programmed, we all come in a world which is already defined. Just with the picture, what if in the process of birth, you come out of the womb and just put the head out and then stop and look around. And then you see, oh, there is a world already. Whatever you see, is it at home or is it in a hospital? And you see people around. And they have ideas about the world. They have a life. They do everything like they do maybe yesterday, tomorrow, like they normally do. And if you ask them where I am here, which planet is it, what is here, they tell you how they see the world. And when we young, we are easy to program. And we are mainly programmed. And today I want to talk about what does it really mean, free speech. And we had it in COVID times. And this is UK Health Radio from London and London Real. There was London Real Academy, had a YouTube channel with 1 billion views in total. Over 10 years, a lot of lessons, and was shut down from YouTube because YouTube didn't like what was said there. And I myself got a warning from YouTube where it's slightly mentioned at that time something about vaccination or COVID. They gave me a warning. Okay, luckily they got aware that it all was a big scam and that a lot of things are not true. And if you listen to the last session with Dr. Stäbel about vaccination and in protein engineering, how it really is. And I see it in Germany at the law, because I was a German lawyer once. Okay, now slowly in court, we get more information that it was a political thing and not a medical thing. That even our institute in Germany is advising the government and said, no, it's not that dangerous. Don't let them wear the masks. That's not healthy. It was shut down and the politicians used a different game. So why? That's another story. I don't want to go in conspiracy here, but we need to understand if we are in fear, we can't think right. Everybody who had a test, university or wherever, driving test or whatever. Oh, if you have stress and fear, yeah, then you'd have a hard time getting all your wisdom, knowledge out. So, and we know if you keep people in fear, it's so much easier to rule them. And that is happening for thousands of years. If you not pay the money, you don't come to heaven. If you don't do this, that. The parents start, if you don't do this, you're not allowed to do. We are not really building strong, individual, authentic personalities. So go back to the birth situation. You put your head out and ask what's here. Is everything defined here? What if they said, like Steve Jobs once said in a video, no, what we have here for opinions is all man-made. And everything what is man-made can be changed. So come out, tell us what soul you are, what is your nature, what is your essence, and then go forever what you want. Be true, authentic. Live from your true essence, and the universe is supporting you to 100%. Most people didn't experience this. I didn't experience it. First of all, my parents didn't know about universal laws, law of attraction, or what we today all say, how thoughts become reality. But my parents, especially my dad, didn't want really that I'm a free person. The classical saying, as long you put your feet under my table, you do what I am telling you. And in school, I needed to sit still, even if we know today from all science, brain, and how we learn best is by moving and not sitting still. We were forced so many things. And now we're living in a world where we can see from America, UK, Germany, France, just to mention a few countries. Everybody talked about the American dream. And what is today? You see, roads are not really in good shape, and 75 million people need food stamps. Is this the American dream? A so-called wealthy country and so many poor people? What about the UK? There are families or generations, third, fourth generation living from welfare. Is this really a wealthy country? Or is the wealth just not good distributed? What is the intention of the governments? I see it in Germany. We have 3 to 5 million kids poor or close to poorness. And it's amazing how they are educated, or better, not educated, and how we believe that they will later pay the pension for people if they're not really well educated. France, you see also a lot of poor people, and you see a lot of violence. Is this really a wealthy country? And is this really, in these mentioned countries, that we want the people to be strong and healthy? I love always the example of Singapore, because they made a decision. We want every kid to be healthy and kind of wealthy, because they made a law, no kid in poorness. They set a level of, call it wealth, income, or whatever. Kids don't have income, but in which shape kids need to be, and there is a law, and they organize it. They organize a lot of things different. And COVID, you saw in most countries, they frightened the people, they forced them in the direction of vaccination, even if this is a main killer in the end, but not the same amount of intense suggestion, strengthen your immune system, make your immune system stronger, really do the best for your body. No. Follow the rules and be afraid. And we created a world which is against nature, or at least can't be really against nature, but the rules are against nature. The top guys earning a lot of money, and slowly starting, like in America, some billionaires are realizing if we keep on going, we kill ourselves, because if we have only poor people who will buy our products then. And now we have a lot of other games that the poor people just more speculating in cryptos and everything. And yeah, made it often worse. But the government is not really working on strengths. And I like to read you something from a German Jewish philosopher from 1956. So a lot before Orwell's 1984. So, and Gunther Anders, who was a philosopher, wrote, "In order to suppress any rebellion from above, it should not be done violently. Archaic methods like Hitler are definitely out of date. It is enough to create a collective condition so powerful that the very idea of rebellion does not even occur to the mind. The best way would be to format people from birth, limiting their innate biological abilities. Then we continue this condition, sharply reducing the level and quality of education, bringing it to the form of training without effort. An ignorant person has a limited horizon of thinking, and the more limited his thinking is, materially moderate, the less he can rebel. Access to knowledge should be made more complex and more elite. Let the gulf between people and science deepen, so that information directed at the general public is insensitive with all possible meanings, especially without persuasion, must be used again. Not the direct violence. Let's do it en masse. En masse broadcast on television, entertainment that always flatters emotion and instinct. We will occupy our consciousness with useless and cheerful things. Constant conversation and music. Not to ask questions, not to provoke thoughts. Sexuality will be the most important. As a social anesthesia, there is no better. Nothing is better. In general, it is necessary to prohibit the seriousness of existence, ridicule everything that has a high value, keep constant apologies for triviality, so that the euphoria of advertising and consumption becomes a valuable component of the standard of human happiness and a model of freedom. Such pressure for collectively will in itself cause such integration that the only fear that we will have, that we maintain, is this exclusion from the system, thus loss of access to the material conditions necessary for happiness. A mass person produced in this way must be treated as he is, a product, a calf, and follow the herd. And all that puts to sleep his brightness, his critical mind, his morally good, and that which can him wake up, you have to fight, make fun of. Any doctrines that challenge the system must first be defined as subversive and terroristic. So it says Gunther Anders, Human Obstacle, 1956. Okay, I didn't really dive deep into it and checked it out, if it's really the truth. But it sounds like some people knew what they're doing. And I believe when we saw in our government in Germany papers that they really had meetings and how do we frighten the people. And I saw politician frightens. We had a famous politician, he was close to run for chancellor in Germany, and publicly talking to a kid, do you want to be responsible for the death of your grandma? It's amazing what they did to other people. Because all the other decisions, which were not really human, separating all people and everything, and with the wrong treatments of the COVID, also a lot of people died. And I call really what they are doing not just simply kind of illegal, against morality, because they know what they're doing. And till today, nobody really apologized. and said, oh, we had a big error. No. They knew what they were doing, and now they just, because the sheep will elect them again, why should they apologize? They're still hiding the truth. But some I call really murder, because they knew what they're doing and they were in this way killing people and making a lot of people's life. Just see the kids with wearing masks and what they had for now psychological problems, what they did to them. There's a problem for generations, And yes, on one hand, people forget easy, and everything looks like it's going to normal again. We have a lot of games, soccer games and everything, parties, European Song Contest, and it's maybe louder than ever, but it's not so new. It was in Rome as well, bread and games, that people are doing this, but deep inside is more fear than ever. And it's possible to measure. And I had this session here with Charles. He is from South Africa, and we talked about, because he is testing a lot of his patients in South Africa, that fear is going around. Ukraine, Israel, but deep inside, that's why we are really all prepared for fear, was the COVID session. How the government is handling it. And now in the news and everything, is not really uplifting and strengthening people, and it's not really forcing them or encouraging them to be a free spirit. And like London, we have the topic with WikiLeaks and Assange. Someone made public what the American troops did. And now this guy is in prison because he dared to say the truth, share the truth, an ugly truth we don't want in the government. So shouldn't we as people not say, wow, great that you did that? Luckily some say we need to free him. But why is America, after so many years, still chasing him? Because other people need fear that they are not open up to say what they see in the governments. We don't want whistleblowers, so we need to chase them and stress them. We are not there for going for the truth. We are not there for going for peace. The business model is different. But it's not only the government. And I will share a little more after the break. So we had already sessions here, I think, really it's about self-awareness. Where do we trick ourselves? Where do I have the wrong beliefs? If you're really aware, you feel where you feel fear, where you hiding, where you don't dare to say what you really want to say, what your truth is. And remember the top 5 regrets of the dying. In the end, they say, shit, I didn't live my true self. And I tell you, that will be the worst, making you fear. In the end, when you have no time left, to realize I shouldn't have said something. Because as far as I know, nobody at the end of his life says, oh shit, I should have been more in the office. I should have made $1 million more. No. What is life all about? Living your true essence, authentically. Make authentic decision not to be manipulated. And therefore, I want to share you another story. And it is called also the world version and the British version. This is a story I don't know really when I got it. I wrote a blog, remember 2010, so 14 years ago, I wrote a blog about this, exactly this story. But I started it years ago, I got the story. So, maybe it's 20 years ago, I don't know who published it, but you will feel there is some truth, and again, I will read something. So it starts like with the headline, "The Rest of the World Version." The squirrel works hard and in the withering heat all summer long, building and improving his house and laying up supplies for the winter. The grasshopper thinks he is a fool and laughs and dances and plays the summer away. Come winter, the squirrel is warm and well fed. The shivering grasshopper has no food or shelter, so he dies out in the cold. That is the Rest of the World version. Here comes the British version. The squirrel works hard in the withering heat all summer long, building and improving his house and laying up supplies for the winter. The grasshopper thinks he is a fool and laughs and dances and plays the summer away. Come winter, the squirrel is warm and well fed. A social worker finds a shivering grasshopper, calls a press conference and demands to know why the squirrel should be allowed to be warm and well fed, while others, less fortunate, like the grasshopper, are cold and starving. The BBC shows up and provides live coverage of the shivering grasshopper with cuts to a video of the squirrel in his comfortable warm home with a table laden with food. The British press inform people that they should be ashamed that in a country of such wealth, this poor grasshopper is allowed to suffer so while others have plenty. The Labour Party, Greenpeace, Animal Rights and the Grasshopper Council of GP demonstrate in front of the squirrel's house. The BBC, interrupting a cultural festival, especially from Notting Hill, with breaking news, broadcasts a multicultural choir singing "We Shall Overcome." Ken Livingstone rants in an interview with Trevor McDonald that the squirrel has got rich of the backs of the grasshoppers and calls for an immediate tax hike on the squirrel to make him pay his fair share, increases the charge for squirrels to enter inner London. In response to the pressure from the media, the government drafts the Economic Equity and Grasshopper Anti-Discrimination Act, retroactive to the beginning of the summer. The squirrel's taxes are reassessed. He is taken to court and fined for failing to hire grasshoppers as builders for the work he was doing on his home, and an additional fine for contempt when he told the court the grasshopper did not want to work. The grasshopper is provided with a council house, financial aid to furnish it, and an account with a local taxi firm to ensure he can be socially mobile. The squirrel's food is seized and redistributed to the more needy members of society, in the case the grasshopper. With enough money to buy more food, to pay the fine and his newly imposed retroactive taxes, the squirrel has to downsize and start building a new home. The local authority takes over his old home and utilizes it as a temporary home for asylum-seeking cats who had hijacked the plane to get to Britain, as they had to share their country of origin with mice. On arrival, they have tried to blow up the airport because of Britain's apparent love of dogs. The cats had been arrested for the international offense of hijacking and attempt bombing, but were immediately released because the police fed them pitchers instead of salmon whilst in custody. Initial moves to then return them to their own country were abandoned because it was feared they would face death by the mice. The cats devise and start a scam to obtain money from people's credit cards. A panorama special shows the grasshoppers finishing up the last of the squirrel's food, So spring is still months away, while the council house he is in crumbles around him because he hasn't bothered to maintain the house. He is shown to be taking drugs. Inadequate government funding is blamed for the grasshopper's drug illness. The cats seek recompense in the British courts for their treatment since arrival in the UK. The grasshopper gets arrested for stabbing an old dog during a burglary to get money for his drugs habit. He is imprisoned but released immediately because he has been in custody for a few weeks. He is placed in the care of the probation service to monitor and supervise him. Within a few weeks, he has killed a guinea pig in a botched robbery. A commission of inquiry that will eventually cost £10 million and state the obvious is set up. Additional money is put into funding a drug rehabilitation scheme for grasshoppers, and legal aid for lawyers representing asylum seekers is increased. Asylum-seeking cats are praised by the government for enriching Britain's multicultural diversity, and dogs are criticized by the government for failing to befriend the cats. The grasshopper dies of drug overdose. The usual sections of the press blame it on the obvious failure of government to address the root causes of despair arising from social inequity and his traumatic experience of prison. They call for the resignation of the minister. The cats are paid £1 million each because their rights were infringed when the government failed to inform them there were mice in the United Kingdom. The squirrel, the dogs, and the victims of the hijacking, the bombing, the burglaries and the robberies have to pay an additional percentage on their credit cards to cover losses. Their taxes are increased to pay for law and order, and they are told that they will have to work beyond 65 because of a shortfall in government funds. The ends. Since this was written, the squirrel was The end. Since this was written, the squirrel has decided that enough is enough and has sold up everything he owned and has sodded off to Spain. Let's make a break. Yeah, this is an old story, 20 years old, but how is it today? Are we not living in this? And when I mentioned Singapore, in Singapore it's really tough. They have laws, but they live more with the universal laws and not go in these tricky things, not in the blaming mood, not just with the money making for whatever people who don't really want to contribute to society. And in the end, this is just about nature. I'm not against helping people. I really love to help and support, but not ignore the laws, the universal laws. If we all go in the trap of the lies, if we are not standing up what is not really uplifting and strengthening those and not really supporting the good behavior, then we kill the system. And we live in a world like this. And so we come then also to the discussion of, is the democratic system the problem? Is now the China model so much better? I don't think so. I think the best model is be aligned with the universal laws. Martin Luther King was not just for the so-called civil rights movement. He just had the idea there are man-made laws and God-made laws, and they need to be aligned. And every dictator has the advantage, maybe not going through a parliament and can be faster. Maybe that. But they all run against the wall sooner or later if they're violating the universal laws. And we see maybe at the moment China really bringing the country up, but we see also dictatorship in North Korea, which is only surviving because someone is feeding it, not out itself. Most dictators very fast at the end. And Russian has a problem, but China and Russia at the moment come together. And also why? Why the Western world, with sanctions and everything, believes, I don't know where the beliefs really come from, just from old thinking and behavior. With sanctions you can stress them. No, you bring them closer. And China is a super. But not just because China is so super, because the British Empire is gone, the Americans played a wrong game, and here we come to these British version of the squirrel and the grasshopper, because we all, if we are not really in the beginning very careful, and when we're violating in a society the laws because we think, it's so good, we can afford it, and we don't need to teach our kids the laws, we just feed them. Yeah, then we give them a fish, but we don't train them fishing. And one day, if we can't give them a fish, they are not able to fish. Like in my book, The Best Is Yet to Come, is a story from the little fleet of fishers in the area of San Francisco. And when they fished, they just worked on the fishes and throwed some stuff away, and the pelican came and ate it, and they were used to get from the fisher boats the food. And one day, the little fisher boats, we need to stop it, we don't make enough money. And it's really, the pelicans was at the edge of dying because they didn't know how to fish, because they always were fed by the fishers, man. And they imported other pelicans who showed them and trained them how to fish again. Yes, what are we training our kids? What we are expecting in the society? Are we a so-called strong democracy? And how is it in a company? Do we really want that people work, or, oh yeah, we can hide and support each other and be against them? I remember after the financial crisis that I was sitting a lot with people together, and they were blaming the bosses who stealing the money. I said, are you not stealing as well? What? No. You have a contract of working how many hours? And how many hours are you really working? You steal time. Or did you steal maybe just a pen or whatever? If we are not changing all the way we live together in alliance, in alignment with the law and understanding that sometimes it might be so-called tough. But tough is it for those who need to change their behavior now because they are used to something different. And I experienced this myself. I was a desk worker a lot of years, decades, and I didn't train enough. And starting to train was tough. But was it tough to train? No, it was just tough to go out of the not natural behavior, because it's nature to train, to walk, to move. But I had a different thinking, a different lifestyle. So the healthy way is understanding we are part of nature, so let's move. And if you look at nature, there are different animals. there are different flowers. And every flower is happy to be this flower. The animal is this animal, and the natural behavior is good. But what are humans? We are not caring so much about our nature, our true essence. We look what other people have and try to be others. We are not helping the grasshopper to dance, but anyway take care of him, take care of himself. No, we think, no, we need to steal from the squirrel. And then we really will get problems. It's okay to have a kind of tax, or everybody pays in a pot where we have a kind of safety for those who struggle, but it always should be help to help themselves. And I see it in Germany as well, where I grew up. One day we came up with the idea of what we call welfare. And since then, we have an increased number of, today up to millions of people living from welfare. And there is no will of government to have no poor people, no helpless people. They're not doing anything. And once in a while, if election comes to discuss, should we give the poor people €5 more, that they vote for us? But there is not, like Singapore, it says, we don't want that in the country. We don't want poor people in the country. We support them. Like, also, why do we allow so much food? And we know today the food is not healthy. It's poisoning people, make people sick. Are we doing something from the government? No. We ask people, eat the wrong food, and if you're sick, pay for the doctor. At least pay for the insurance. Pay for a doctor. If you can't pay, we don't help you. As the same with COVID. Hey, let's make a big deal with pharmaceutical industry. And yeah, we know everything is new. We know it's risky. And then we say, the people who get the vaccination, we force them for the vaccination, but they have to be responsible for the results. So all those who have problems now, and I just made in German an interview with a doctor and the patients, the insurance companies are not paying for the treatments what's really helping. The German government accepted at the moment that at least 2.5 million people who are sick because of vaccination. Do they support them? Do they want really to help them? Is there focus on let's get more science, how we help them better? No money for that. But it was a lot of money for advertising. You are guilty if you're not, get the shot. I'm not saying this all to blame governments. I say it that we, the people, need to wake up. That we don't need to believe everything. I'm not a scientist. I didn't know what's wrong with COVID or COVID injections, but I knew something is wrong. If they want that people shut up, if they not want to hear from really scientists who really have a huge track record, not interested hearing different opinions, then I know it is a political game. Why do we keep people poor in the country? Why we are not as society working for the best for the people? We don't have really in the government a secretary who is responsible to really make the people strong. No, we have a lot of other ideas. We have someone who is responsible for war. We have not one secretary who hard works on peace. We call them maybe health secretary, but look what they are doing. In Germany, it was for the health system, not for the people. In 2010, our Secretary of Health said, I can't decide anything. I don't have the power. The people who have the power are not elected, are not in the parliament. And those in the parliament or those who are in the government don't really have the real power. But it's always said in the democracy, the people have the power. And it's true, the people have the power, but they don't realize that they have the power. The slaves always had the power, but they didn't realize that they have the power because of fear. Gandhi made it really clear in India that even with people not fighting, not with weapons, could stress the British Empire a lot. If the poor unite, if they wake up, and that is what's happening now with, I mentioned in the beginning, London Real, and this video, We Will Not Be Silent, or You Can't Silence Us. It says, the most thing what governments and those who are behind the governments fear is love. A good community, healthy families. They need to divide. They need the fear. They need to separate. Because if the people fight each other, then they are safe. But is it really what we want? UK Health Radio. It's about health, and health comes from the word whole. That means all together. The body is whole, is really healthy. Society, we need to understand we are all humans, we are all the same. Maybe the bank account is different, but we shouldn't be run by others, especially not by fear. And we have the power to think different, to feel different, and to act different. And that's why they try to, like I said, kill a lot of people and stress on and ridicule those who had more knowledge. So keep them away from the truth. Separate them and let them have stress and fear. And give them games that they kind of on the surface really don't feel the fear. But the real joy of life, is really living your true self. Live it out loud. Be your true self. And the universe will support you. There's enough money on planet Earth. There's enough food for everybody on planet Earth. But if we are not really going for it to have a different world, then we support the shitty distribution system. We don't need the wars. We don't need lack of whatever. We have the power. Humans are more. We are so much more. Watch yourself, be aware, and dare to live your true self. And then for sure, the best will come. And maybe you read my book, Better the Whole World Against Me than My Soul. Be inspired.